This episode of the MOC Squad was filmed in front of a live, members-only audience. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs, and greetings, Rob and his toys.
Hello. Yes, I got some new action figure stands, and for a lot of my I picked up a guy's collection, and so I need more third-party stands.
I've been enjoying watching Rob just kind of aloofly playing with his toys.
Flexing, I gotta get my X-Men figures from. I've got a potpourri of X-Men figures that I'm going to put up.
So, some official, some unofficial, correct?
Yeah, that's the thing. I sort of was not buying figures when a lot of these third-party X-Men figures came out, and the thing is, the head sculpts are not like Hot Toys head sculpts, but when you put them all together, you can tell there's enough that are really good, like the Magneto is really good, and the Charles Xavier is really good, and so when you set them all up, it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, with so many interpretations of these characters, if some look like the cinematic ones and some don't, I mean, they're going to look like some version of the character through the decades of history that we have with all of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get third party, like, Doctor Doom, like if so, it's a movie. I don't have a Doctor Doom, right. So, I'll put this somewhere. I need a throne for him.
Nice.
I do have. I am getting Captain Picard's Enterprise E captain's chair today that lights up and has sound and everything.
Oh my goodness.
That's from XO6. Very excited to have that.
That's
awesome. Me and chairs.
Those XO6 figures, they've got some coming up that look incredible.
Oh yeah, along with the chair comes Archer, Captain Archer.
Oh, nice.
So
very cool. Well, welcome everybody. For those of you who don't know, I'm Roberto. I help Rob put this little shindig together every couple of weeks, and this is your opportunity as members of the PGS to join us and ask your questions. Join us.
Like the Evil Dead say.
Ask your questions directly from Rob. If you are a member, remember you can go to the members section or the community section of the Burnettwork on YouTube, and you will find the link there to join us on the Zoom chat, which will be streaming here in a second. And then we usually broadcast about the first couple of hours of that here, so that we can share with our friends outside of the Zoom chat as well. And then we will continue chatting with folks until all the questions are done, or until Rob needs to get out of here, because it's all on Rob's schedule. So. Anyway, Rob, this is the exciting part when we let the masses into into the chat. So let me just double check and make sure that my settings are all correct. Okay, here we go. We're about to let in our members into the chat. So let's do it. Boom.
Let's do it.
Welcome everybody. And as you come in, remember that in Zoom, there is the reactions button in the toolbar, and that's where you can raise your hand to get you on the queue to share your comments and questions with Rob and with the community. So welcome, everybody. I see the lovely RM is joining us today. Hello, RM. Good to see you. Alon, Marcus, S.A. Thaipen. We've got a lot of regulars and some new people here as well. So welcome, everybody. I am going to go ahead and pin Rob first and foremost here so that we have you front and center, Rob. So let's go ahead.
Hello.
There you are.
Front and center now.
There you are. And
that's very exciting.
We're going to kick things off with S.A., who got his hand raised first. So let me...
He's always quick on that. Quick on
the draw. He's so let me go ahead and ask to Did I ask you to unmute? Ask to unmute. So, SA, you should be able to unmute now.
I am unmuted.
Hello.
Not anymore, you're not.
I'm unmuted? Or
You're
am I muted?
you're unmuted.
I am unmuted. Awesome. I got into the leadoff center field position. That's a great song, Center Field by John Fogerty.
It's funny that when you said center field, whenever I hear the word center field, I hear that song.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah.
Love that
pretty
tune.
Good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, feels good. Feels good. Watched Silent Running last week.
What'd
Really
you think?
liked it.
Had you seen it before?
Not all of it. I remember when I was living in San Francisco in 1999. That sounds like a Jay Peterman story from Seinfeld, but yeah, and I got into jogging up those hills, which are rather steep there. In an effort to get into shape, and I got a bunch of techno cassettes and tapes, and actually CDs. I was CDs and MP3s, so I was, all of that stuff is. And then one of my favorites was the Future Sound of London.
Yep.
They sample that track off of Silent Running in one of their songs. Pretty cool.
Yeah, Joan Baez lends herself to techno. No.
In a way. Whatever.
There's a great documentary on the making of Silent Running that's on the Blu-ray. And the guy who made that documentary was my cinematographer on Free Enterprise.
Oh.
He worked for Douglas Trumbull. He was also a model photographer on Star Trek The Motion Picture. But that had no bearing on why I hired him. That's just an interesting aside.
Okay. Yeah, well, it certainly helps.
So how are you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. Working on stuff. Contemplating the channel a lot, contemplating the YouTube space and all that's going on in it. And I stumbled across meet.jit.si, which is kind of an open source Zoom, but it is a little bit more fungible, and that you can just take what we're seeing here on Zoom. I don't know if Rob is looking at the Zoom page right now, and pretty much implant it anywhere on your web. So, I mean, yeah, I was thinking, at one point, maybe PGS can have its permanent, chat area, and we can stream that out as part of our 24/7, whatever.
That's cool. Yeah. I must learn more about this.
Yes, I will put the link around, and then you can see. There's two components. You can drop just their server in your page, or you can host your own server with an API and all of that jazz, so to speak.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Put that around. But yeah, I think that would be cool, because I think our content and everything is really conducive to this kind of format, more than other stuff that I've seen, more than just movie review. It's more of a sci-fi kind of experience. I think that really helps, because everybody's used to this stuff. So some ways it doesn't help. That's
say, if you don't mind, send me the link through the Zoom chat, and I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will definitely do that. Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, just following all the stuff, all of the drama in the YouTube space with everything and all of the politics.
Such drama, or as I like to say, it's drama. It's DRAAAAAAMA, drama.
Which is it? How much of it is trying to get more eyeballs, and how much of it is you don't know? And it's tough. I don't know. I don't work in the entertainment industry. I don't have to deal with those fame issues. Everyone has their own set of issues, so it's rough. But I mean, in terms of directing the channel away from that and more toward content, yeah, I don't know. There's a writer's strike now. What do you do? What do you think about? How do you even think about making new projects during a writer's strike?
I think the writer's strike is the best time, because I mean, obviously writers have to be on the picket line, and I'm not a WGA member. I mean, I've had some meetings, and I would not cross a picket line, but now is the time to sit down and write a project. I have a big nonfiction unscripted video project that we kind of are conjuring out of thin air. That's going to be pretty neat, and we're just going to go ahead and make it. And I'll talk more about that
Yeah.
Not on this
Yeah.
stream, but a little later. But it kind of came together really quickly, and we're going to do it because why not? You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there are all sorts of other formats I'm looking at. I mean, personally, I'm looking at, ideally, I'd like to create all these large maps, these large kind of space
yeah. I
maps,
mean,
so to
I
speak,
look. I think that one of
and
the great
published.
things, one of the great things I think about YouTube, I mean, it's instant creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's basically a global broadcast platform that's just sitting there, and anybody who's motivated.
Well, in the last 5 years, it seems like it's become a legitimate career. People can make, if you have a decent following, you can make six figures out of that. And
Yeah,
that can spin itself out into other formats and other media.
absolutely.
How that necessarily meshes out into an object in the real world is something that I look at quite extensively. I mean, you have 4K TVs, 8K TVs. At what point where you get the folding interactive maps that you can throw around and use?
Oh, we're gonna have TVs that you unroll.
Yes, exactly.
You know, you'll just unroll them.
I mean, yeah, like I was saying, I have a project where I'm working on a series of 26 space maps, and those obviously will be published on a website, or they'll be Creative Commons kind of PDFs. But wouldn't it be cool if those maps, so to speak, could be rollable things that you could take out and walk around with?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's one idea. Obviously, getting into holograms and 3D, that's a whole other space too. But yeah, the fact that YouTube has made that leap to where it's legitimized, people have real careers, they're going to have, real drama. The space is only going to get bigger just because people get paid by it consistently. And with the writer's strike, what else? What else do you have? It's huge.
I think the real question is how limited are we going to be? I mean, I've noticed that everybody's cracking down on content, copywritten content, copyright strikes. There's going to be a lot of limitations. I mean, certain language, you're going to get policed by language because YouTube is entirely monetized with ad revenue, and Google, the advertisers are more important than the content creators, which I understand. But where is that going to end, and where is that going to take us? It's hard to say, but it's certainly interesting.
Thank you so much to S.A. Thaipen. Thank you for joining us today. Rob, I have a bit of a cryptic comment here from your good friend Irene Jobson. She said she wanted me to share this question with you, although I don't know. I think I'm missing some context. I think it may be related to last night's midnight music. So
I'm sure it probably does.
I'll just read it and I'll let you respond. So it's center field centerfold RM. She be a sketchy driver in her gameplay stuff. I want you to watch her drive in this game and 1, support that females shouldn't drive, or B, just don't do drugs. Do you have any sense of what we're talking about?
I don't. I don't. But that's interesting.
Maybe RM has something to comment on that. I am not sure. But Irene had made the point to reach out to me earlier with that comment. So I'm just putting it out there. Not really sure. Maybe we can get a little bit more information on that later on. In the meantime, we have our good friend in Israel, Alon Abadi, is here. Alon, it's been a while. I hope you are doing well. Our AI artist extraordinaire, welcome to the chat.
What's going on, dude?
It's been a while. I'm sorry. I had a rough couple of weeks. Physically, but I'm much better now, and I'm glad that I could join.
Well, glad to hear that.
Yeah, but I've been spamming you like with some stuff. I sent you the John Campia double what's his name? Tim
Oh,
Robinson.
that video was crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
that
pay it
guy looks
forward, saying-
just like John.
Yeah, it's like John is like in full road rage mode. It was hilarious. The paid forward Jane skit from, I think, what's the name of the show? I think you should leave, something like that.
Oh, is that? Yeah, I didn't know where that was from, but it was
It's on
hilarious.
Netflix. It's on Netflix. I started watching some episodes, but it didn't catch me. I just watched like this clip, and I saw John in his car starting a paying it forward.
I
Okay.
can't unsee it now.
Yeah.
Can't unsee it. But it was great. That was great. That was really fun. I laughed out loud actually when I watched that. I was like, oh my God.
I actually managed to watch Spider-Verse.
Oh, what'd you think?
I watched the Spider-Verse. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I've watched it twice. And I gotta say, I think that Sony is in a really good place. And I wanted to talk about how they took the cameos, both in No Way Home and in this movie, and I feel as if they're doing it right. They're integrating the actual cameos into the plot.
Yep.
And it feels as if it's organic. It feels as if they belong there. And I really loved it. Obviously, I was not like I'm the target audience. I'm the target audience. It's written all over.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure that one of the frames even said that like this frame is dedicated to Alana Badi. I just like I sat in the theater grinning the entire time.
You know, when you watch that film, it first of all, it's such a stunning achievement from just an animation perspective. I mean, the animation is so next level. It's so unique.
Both are, yeah.
Yeah, and but this even plus the first one, and I was blown away by it. And but like you said, they integrate everything, the cameos and the Spider-Man from the video games, and I mean all that stuff. It's just really, really well done, and it shows that it shows when the people that are making something really understand what it is that they're making, and how much better things can be when you get something like that, and it really means something. It really matters. So I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I really, really hope that Craven will have the same treatment.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I'm hoping because Venom, as we all know, and Morbius, they kind of neglected some of the tightening the plot, and I feel like they might fall again. But as far as like the Spider-Man franchise, the main Spider-Man, I'm loving what I'm seeing. And my second point was that the first and second time I watched it, I kept on feeling, having this like eerie feeling that like this is very similar to The Flash. And I've not seen The Flash yet. It's not out yet. It's not out in Israel yet.
When does it come out? Does it open this week?
Yeah, my tickets are in 4 days.
Okay, yeah. So it's opening worldwide, yeah.
And even though I have not seen the movie, I have no idea what like the third act is and stuff. But I kept on feeling like these similarities ever since the trailer. Ever since like you can save. It's either one life for everyone or something like that line from the trailer. I kept on feeling like this is similar to me. And since I know you've seen both films, I wanted you to calm me down.
Well, I mean, the thing about The Flash, to me, the whole idea of the multiverse originated with The Flash. the Flash of Two Worlds and
Yeah.
the cosmic treadmill and all that stuff. So I've always thought of the Flash. It's a very different kind of a thing because in the Flash, Barry Allen is doing something specific to himself, to his own character. And what I like about what I think has been lost in Marvel, and it's lost if you go back and you watch the first Thor movie, the first Iron Man movie, and the first Captain America movie. All of those characters, all of those movies are about a dilemma that the central character has. The movies are about them. And as I've always said, the Burnett axiom is all great stories are about the characters and their story first. And if you try and make it about the universe, like Quantum Mania was not so much about Scott Lang, it was more about the Marvel universe and Kang and the quantum realm and all this. And he felt almost like a guest star in his own movie. And his central dilemma, other than defeating evil, isn't enough. And I think that the one thing I really liked about The Flash is that Barry Allen has something he himself is trying to do for himself. And it's personal. So despite all the action and the time travel and the multiverse stuff, it becomes a personal story for him. And that's why I thought it worked really well. And I really liked The Flash a lot. I thought it was really entertaining. I don't think it all necessarily works. I think it goes a little bit off the rails toward the end, but I really liked it.
Yeah, coming back to my first point, I really hope that like the cameos are treated with justice and with like necessity, and that like the characters are there. That Michael Keaton's Batman is there for a reason, and I really hope that they integrate them into the plot. Also, we have to remember that they started working on this film like 30 years ago. And
yeah, I mean, the cameos I think are really good. And they're used well. And like the Sasha Calais, I don't know how to pronounce her last name right. She's fantastic. Michael Keaton is fantastic. And Ezra Miller, they're playing two versions of Barry Allen, and they're great in the movie. So I don't think you have to worry. I think the movie's really entertaining. It's very different than Spider-Verse. Really, I mean, the end of the movies might bear some resemblance, but I think the movies they're different films. So,
well, good to see you, Alon. Thank you for joining us. It's been a while. Great to have you back. And coming up next, Roger Robertson. Roger, welcome to the chat.
What's going on, man?
Hi, happy Tippecanoe to you, Rob.
I've been, what's really funny? I've been learning all about that. It's an actual Indian treaty that was made in the 1800s. I mean, there's a whole background I knew nothing about.
It is like the most famous presidential campaign slogan of all time, too. Tippecanoe and Tyler, too.
Yep. And I found out all about. I knew nothing. See, to me, I was taking it literally because of Waterman, and when I read it, it was tip a canoe into the water. So,
yeah, that's kind of funny. You look at it that way.
I've kind of lost my having no. It shows how you have no context with something. So for those of you who don't know, who haven't seen it, on the 10 freeway, there are two exits next to each other. One is Waterman Avenue, and the other is Tippecanoe Avenue. And in my mind, I thought it was some cheap, because if you go up those streets, you come to an Indian lands where there's the Yamava casino and stuff. So in my mind, it was some kind of Indian thing where there was a waterman, but then they tipped the canoe, so they weren't a good waterman. And in my mind, depending on which way you go on the freeway, you either come to Tippecanoe first and then you hit Waterman Avenue, or you hit Waterman Avenue and then Tippecanoe. And that's what I thought. I'm like, and I've been laughing about it for a year and a half since I lived here. And I it's one of those things in my own mind. I would just, no one else thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. This woman I told the other day thought it was funny. But now people have been sending me what Tippecanoe is. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And it must refer back to the historical parts of it all.
Yeah.
So
do you remember Turk 182?
Oh yeah, with Timothy Hutton.
Yeah, that whole premise was at kind of there's a homage to Tippecanoe and Tyler too. That same thing he would do throughout the movie, because Tyler was the name of the mayor, Robert Culp.
Right. Okay. And I didn't know anything about this, so it's all new to me, but cool.
But yeah, I enjoyed the show last night because it's been a little while since all three we had been together.
Yeah, no, that show was totally fun. It was so fun. People have been writing me all day how much fun they had watching that show.
Oh yeah.
All we have to do is, here's the formula is clearly we talk movies and sex. That's the formula.
Yeah, and your
love it.
presidential campaign as well.
Yeah, my
for that.
Thanks to Tom Jr. Jackson for that one.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. That was hilarious. By the way, I wanted to say that I have brought a new person on the channel. His name's Jack. He actually lives in Ireland, and he has been doing edits of our content. I just put up as we were speaking. What he's doing is he's taking like my observations, and you might have seen that short about the French Connection when I did that rant. So he's cutting them down. He's really talented at adding all those clips, and he's been doing a lot of that stuff and taking my he's done 2 more, one about why Star Wars is not science fiction, and another one about Star Trek. And he just gave me clips for the otaku experience, so I just put those up. So take a look at those. Just I'd throw you guys out, so we're going to be doing a lot more of that kind of content, to get more subscribers and just make the content more fun, because we do all these long live streams, and really what generates more subscribers and more eyeballs on the channel is short content, which is something I really haven't leaned into, but I'm going to do it a lot more.
Yeah, and
to promote everyone's different shows and all the stuff
with the international aspect of your network, which I always appreciated. I always feel quite plain just being here in Oklahoma, and you got people in Sweden and Israel.
So like Alon,
I'm one of the few Americans that's
it's really cool. And I can finally tell you guys, I haven't said this, but I've been talking about how Tango Shalom is going to open in Germany. It is opening in 50. It's going to open across 4 cities and a total of 50 theaters on October 8th. But it's also going to be at a Jewish film festival in Berlin on September 13th or something. So I'm still trying to figure out about doing a little bit of an international jaunt for the channel, where I would pack up my stuff and go to Europe, take a little trip around Europe.
You have to do Oktoberfest in actual Germany.
Well, I was thinking about that. Because the funny thing is I really haven't spent any time in Germany, and I've always wanted to go to Munich and Berlin and hang out, and then go see other members like Martino Simoni, who lives on the Swiss-Italy border, and he has car collections. Like, he has a replica of Patrick McGowan's car from the opening of The Prisoner, and he lives close to the dam where they shot the opening of GoldenEye, where Bond jumps off that dam. So come on, I got to go broadcast from there, sit and drive his Lotus, and then go see the lovely Emma Bannon in the UK and get really wasted with her in Soho, and do a live stream going, I don't know where I am.
Maybe they even have bungee jumping from that dam.
Yeah, I don't know, man. If they did, I would do it. I would totally bungee jump off that dam. I would totally do it.
Well, make sure you get it on film so we.
Oh yeah, the whole thing would be monetized. I'd be putting everything on the channel. To bet your bottom dollar. I would. Modesty Maltese is back. She's amazing. Yeah, that's very cool to have her back here. She's back in the chat. She's quite the lady. But yeah, going to the UK would be fun. And then maybe I've never been to Norway, so Terrier, going to see Terrier up in Norway.
Yeah.
You know, I've been to Sweden, I've been to Switzerland, I've been to Denmark, but I haven't been to Norway.
I've just been to Holland, Belgium, and England's my only jaunt.
That's Holland. I love Holland. And Belgium's very cool. But yeah, so it'd be fun. I mean, it'd be fun just to get a Eurail pass. And I'm sure they have, I don't know if they have good internet on the trains. They probably do. Just, you could stream the whole thing. You could just leave it on 24/7. Here we go. You know, you could get because they've got the new Ray-Bans with cameras in them, and you know, just wander around Europe and go everywhere. Be great. Go meet everybody. And
thank you
do
for
more of that. Go see Marcus. Go to India. I've never been to India.
Sorry. Thank you for joining us, Roger. Let me unpin. Oh, what do we need to do? Lower hand. Here we go. And we have a super chat. Rob, science fan, sends us, looks like £5. He says, I watched the interview with Lex and Mark Zuckerberg. The potential for Avatar and AI is fascinating. I understand why people are scared. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily something to be scared of, because I think it's more technology. I mean, I'm a futurist. We just have to figure out how we're going to use it all. And you know, it's like everything. It's the corporations want to maximize profits and minimize the cost. I mean, the biggest cost of really anything is labor. So, you know, how are you going to marginalize? How are you going to? I mean, they always want to get rid of people because people are expensive. But we're going to have to figure out, I think, as a culture, as a race, the human race is going to have to figure out who and what do we want to be. Because there's only a finite amount of people on the planet. So ultimately, the growth of every company always has to reach a point where there's no more growth to be had. Unless we go out into space, the cosmic infinitude,
the final frontier.
I mean, yeah, let's go out there.
Marcus Bisma should be able to join us now. Welcome, Marcus.
Hey, Rob.
What's up, man? How are you?
Rob, I'm not from India.
Oh, where are you from?
Indonesia.
Oh, you're from Indonesia. See, I'm a dumb American.
But I'm also half Canadian.
So you're a man of the world.
Yeah, I live in Vancouver for more than a decade.
That's where I began my drinking career.
Oh, because it's 18 years old, right? In Canada.
Yeah, because I lived in Seattle, and hey, it's only a 3-hour drive to cross the border. I'm older than you, but in Vancouver in '86 they had the World's Fair, and they built the stadiums like down by the water and stuff, and that was the first time I saw Douglas Trumbull's show scan technique, where he was making movies at 60. It was the first time I saw anything done in a high frame rate. And it was
the one in Space Odyssey, the one.
Yeah, he was the visual effects artist. He directed movies like he directed Silent Running, he directed Brainstorm, and then he did the visual effects for Blade Runner and Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and he worked on 2001. But he developed the first. It was called Show Scan, and the high frame rate, it was 60 frames a second. And I remember seeing it. The first thing I saw was they had made a film for the Tourism Board of Canada in Show Scan, and it was insane. It was insane. I remember thinking that the thing that struck me the most was there was one shot of the bow of a boat. The camera was right down on the bow of the boat, and you saw the water, and there was no motion blur. It was like literally as if you were outside on the bow of the boat watching. You couldn't tell. It was really bizarre because you knew you were in a theater and you knew you were watching a movie, but the images looked absolutely real, because that's pretty much how we see. So there was because movies are a succession of still frames running fast enough where you have persistence of vision. So it's a trick that there's actual movement. You're just watching a succession of still frames going by really fast. But when you're watching 60 frames a second, it was like there was no, it was fast enough where it felt real, like you were seeing it. And it was crazy. I'm like, this is the future of movies. You know, and Douglas Trump was like, I'm like, I want to see a horror movie. I want to see a psycho killer movie with this kind of reality where it's like you are there. But then, of course, you have the effect that people think they're watching a soap opera.
So I saw Spider-Man Across the Universe. It was fantastic. It was great,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Rob, I never heard your opinion on this. What's your thoughts on the Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man movie, especially the second one? For me, maybe it's a hot take. It's one of the worst big budget superhero movie ever made.
Oh, I really liked the first one with the lizard.
Yeah, that one's good. That was pretty good.
I hated the second one with Electro. I'm with you because and I didn't even like him particularly in it. I mean, I thought he's a good Spider-Man, but I thought that film was tonally all over the place. Electro was just goofy, and the tone, it was at war with itself, and then it wanted you to feel a huge emotional wallop in the end, and I thought it was really unearned. I really do not like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I did like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker and Spider-Man in the first one. And I like the lizard, and I like the Kurt Connors relationship that they had. But I'm with you, dude. I hated the second one.
The songs are so awful. The second one.
When
Paul Giamatti shows up with that accent, I was like, what am I watching?
I don't know. I do not know.
You like it better than the third Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, or?
You know, to be honest, too, I like Spider-Man 2 a lot, but again, my problem with those Spider-Man movies is they take place in movie world as opposed to feeling like the one thing I like about the MCU is that a lot of it, especially earlier on when they relied less on green screen, it felt, and I believe one of the reasons they became successful is because it felt like you were watching something that was in our world. Like you believed that Iron Man might be flying by outside, especially like in the first Iron Man movie. And I think that that's why they were appealing. Whereas Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, they didn't have a real, you knew they took place, they were in I know this seems weird, but they were in a movie. You knew you were watching a movie. It was it felt like you were seeing things that were on movie sets, even though they did shoot on location. Everything felt like it was stage bound. It felt there was an artificiality to those movies. I really like the first hour of Spider-Man 1. I like Spider-Man 2 a lot, and I like the relationship with Otto Octavius and Peter. I thought that was good, but those movies, I didn't like those movies nearly as much as I liked X-Men 1 and X-Men 2. Because Spider-Man came out a year after the first X-Men. And it was kind of...
I never know you're not a fan of those earlier Spider-Man movies.
I shouldn't say I'm not a fan. I liked them, but I didn't love them as much as a lot of other people did. I mean, I really appreciated, like, what was interesting to me was, with the first X-Men has a lot of goofy stuff in it. Yeah. Sabretooth and Toad but there was a seriousness to it all. There was a conviction to it all. And you had Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen really grounding the film. And the fact that it opens in Auschwitz was really, I think, audacious. And then Spider-Man was much more of a comic book. So seeing Spider-Man and X-Men 1 and 2 and Spider-Man 1 and 2 was a really interesting juxtaposition. But I liked them. I did like them. It was interesting because you go back and that was... The MCU didn't come out until 2008 with Iron Man. So the early 2000s were really interesting because you had Spider-Man, you had X-Men, you had Daredevil, you had Elektra, you had Ghost Rider. And there were all these Marvel characters that were coming out from different studios. And they were all kind of different kinds of takes. And some of them worked a lot better than others. But yeah, I didn't dislike them. I kind of liked all of them, really, because it was like, wow, what an embarrassment of riches. So,
How about the MCU Spider-Man movie? Do you like them better?
you know, the funny thing about they're good, but
Yeah, they're good.
I those two. I mean, I felt like there was an over reliance on Tony Stark and Tony Stark's technology, and the storylines themselves. I think could have been better. You know, there was too much of a reliance on. I don't know. They were good. I have yet to see. I mean, I really Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, I think, are both fantastic. Those are probably the most satisfying Spider-Man movies to me. I think all of the live-action Spider-Man movies have been missing something, and it's hard to put my finger on it. But I think it's the stories. And I could be wrong. I'm sure a lot of people totally disagree with me. But I just feel there's not a lot. They're not as grounded. And I don't think the emotional stakes, and that's funny to say, seeing Gwen Spacey died, but I want more. I want more out of those movies. I think the potential exists for the next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, now that he's had his identity stripped away and no one knows who Peter Parker is. I think they can finally make the potential to have at least in my eyes, to make the best Spider-Man movie could happen. I think.
Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, I mean they can set up the Gwen Stacy storyline now.
Yeah, they can do all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to that.
Right, Pedro Ferreira, coming from the UK. Welcome, Pedro.
Hi, how's it going? You all right?
I got
What's
it
up,
right
dude?
this time. I got it right this time.
Yay! You're right.
At least you try. You know.
Yeah, exactly. How are you?
Good. You know, just working away, trying to get stuff happening. It's been fun. Things are good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've been I've just had to deal with trolls today, so that's kind of annoying. But
So there's so many.
it's like people asking me for evidence. Ask me, get evidence together, and I'm not allowed to criticize a video because some YouTuber wants me to provide evidence that they left out research. It's just anyway. Let's talk about something a bit better. I got the I actually bought the 4K sets of the Star Trek movies.
Okay.
So
You did or didn't?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got around to doing that, and I looked at the discs, and I'm not really in a position to say, like, I mean, I'm not great with, because of my setup and everything, I'm not great with like knowing if the picture quality is the best it could be and everything. However, in terms of the content and the way it's been presented on the discs, I feel it's a bit half-assed by CBS. I think I can't believe like some of the mistakes they made on the packaging and stuff like that. I think they could have done a bit of a better job.
You're never gonna get an objection from me.
I think it's so when I looked at the discs, I looked at the Blu-rays first, and everything is present and correct and everything, and that's fine. But when you go to the 4Ks, none of the extras from the Blu-ray discs are on the 4K discs. So my thinking then is, why didn't they just, the commentaries are there, okay, fine. And you might think, well, could it be a space issue? Because, you know, the bit rate and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't they just create an extra features disc and get rid of the Blu-rays? Why do you have to get the Blu-rays with the 4Ks?
Well, because then they would, but then they would have to manufacture another disc.
That's where I think it's a bit half-assed, because it's like they're making people buy 2 sets of discs so that you can get the extras on the other disc. And the thing is, well, like the packaging printed, I mean, the discs themselves are really like the kind of thing I expect from 1999 in terms of like no artwork, nothing. But it's also the fact that on some discs it says extra special features, and on other discs it doesn't say anything at all. it's like they're not even consistent in terms of the printing on it. It's just really like little things like that, and it's really just yeah, I don't know what happened. Like, did they not have a Q&A or like a quality assurance or something, or like I don't know what happened. Yeah,
I mean, look, they just don't have the people anymore to make
I do
these
it for
things.
free. I mean, I do it for free, but yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, they've cut back on all that. They've cut back on everyone.
But
and
you think because it's the Star Trek movies, these are prestige kind of movies, you'd think they'd make a bit of an effort. You know, a lot of people are going to be watching, are going to be looking out for these things, you know, to decide if they're going to buy it. So yeah, that was a bit of a weird, I expect this from like a low budget title, but even low budget titles. I actually got a letter about, I got a letter to send you about that actually, about how moderate budget films are getting ignored in physical media. But even the low budget titles are getting really good treatment by companies, the boutique companies anyway.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. I mean, I think the fact that they're licensing out all of these titles. I mean, for instance, the horror movie Barbarian that Disney put out, 4.5. Well, it came out under their banner. It wasn't a Disney film, but they were responsible for making it. That movie was made for $4.5 million. It made 45 million domestic. They recorded an audio commentary for it. There is no physical media release of that movie. And if there's one crowd that'll stay loyal to home video forever, it'll be the horror crowd. They buy everything. And it's amazing to me that Disney has not put that movie out. And I'm like, will they even license it out? I think Second Sight should pick up Barbarian. That Disney should just license it out to Second Sight, because
I think
why not?
I think, you know, I think you've said this in the past about how Disney have to look at all the stuff they own, because they own the Fox stuff and all of this stuff, and there's loads of Disney made movies that have never been given a special treatment on physical media or stuff like that. You know, stuff like not just Tron, but I mean stuff like Watcher in the Woods or Black Hole and stuff like that, or even Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is never. That was such a big movie. That's not been given any special treatment or anything.
I know.
Yeah,
and it's
part of me is kind of sad. You know, that obviously there's the band movies as well. The films will never get like Song of the South, and also my personal favorite obviously is The Devil and Max Devlin, which will never get released.
Oh well, yeah. I like that movie
because I really like that movie. I actually really grown to like that movie, but it will never get released.
Yeah, I mean, it's look at where's Chinatown, you know, because of Roman Polanski. One of the great movies I think ever made is Chinatown, and because Roman Polanski, there's a resurgence about what he did in the 70s, which, you know, he's been canceled. And so that movie, not only is that movie not out in 4K, but his new movie might not ever see the light of day in the United States. And that kind of stuff drives me bananas.
Yeah. So is there anything else you wanted to talk to me about, or think?
Well, I mean, other than how are you doing? How are things in your neck of the woods in the UK?
I did an interview. I did an interview for a podcast. I've got a mic now.
Okay, right. Yeah, you sound good.
I've got no. I'm not using the mic right now. I'm not using the mic right now.
Well, you sound good.
I have the sound, but I did an autism podcast. I did an interview about autism, my life with autism, for a podcast, and I'm kind of hoping that will open some avenues. So,
how did you feel about doing that podcast? Was it hard to talk about that kind of thing? Your life like that?
What happened was I had technical issues related to Zencaster. My internet kept disconnecting after every 10 seconds. I think that when it kept going into standby mode or something, it just disconnects. So we had to keep starting the interview again after 10 minutes. So like the interview was supposed to be 1.5 hours, and it ended up being 3 hours.
Wow.
Because of the technical issues. Yeah.
Oh,
So
well, still.
so hopefully he can salvage some of it and just kind of put it together. But he asked me like 5 questions, and then he's going to pull it together into a video podcast, an audio podcast. So I liked your idea. I liked your idea though of doing a podcast, an interview podcast show about for the imagination connoisseurs. Like interview all of us one day.
Yeah, well, I think what I'm going to do, and I was talking with Roberto about this on the new panel show on the Imagination Connoisseurs show. I think Friday is going to be PGS Day, where I'm going to have a member of every week. It'll be a different member of the Post Geek Singularity as one of the panelists. So, we'll introduce everybody and who are you and why are you an imagination connoisseur, and tell us a little bit about your life, kind of a deal. So I'm definitely going to make that part of the panel show. So every week people will be on the show and interact. So I think that'll be really cool.
Thanks, Pedro, for joining us. Now we've got the one and only Stubble McShave joining us here, longtime member and not a first-time caller. Welcome, Stubble.
Thanks.
Dude, I finished that book in 2 days.
Yeah, I just want to say about the panels, with the imagination connoisseurs. So you introduced the dick pics, the daily imagination connoisseurs pics.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah.
Daily imagination.
It was
today's dick pic. That's
yeah.
gotta be part of the show. Today's dick pic. Yeah. That's really, you know what? I'll do that. That's really funny.
It was not my idea. It was who was it? It was someone else who
was it. Irene Jobson's idea?
No. It's an old thing. From years ago.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, the book. We can't really talk too much about it, but I wanted to bring up the laws of magic / power / technology that's associated with it. Do you remember the laws that I brought up a few years ago?
Yes, you in a letter. It was a letter, right? Yeah. That was a good letter.
Yeah. So the first one is that the ability to solve a problem is directly proportional to how well you understand the power or the technology. So it's a hard sci-fi. So there you understand. But the second about that limitations are more interesting than powers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't really talk about the book because I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
No, but I will say this. I mean, so what we're talking about is Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, his third book, Project Hail Mary. It is a fantastic. First of all, if I wanted to get somebody interested in science fiction who had never read science fiction before, that is one of the most entertaining and accessible hard science fiction books I've ever read. And it touches on things like climate change, but there's all kinds of stuff about physics that are and space travel, and it was presented in such an interesting way. But don't read anything about it. I knew too much. I mean, I knew about it before I went in to read it. But don't go in cold. The colder you go into this book, the better off you'll be, because that book was, Stubble, you were right, man. I literally, so I ordered it because I'd wanted to get it. I just hadn't got it. So I got it last Saturday, and the power was out. So there was nothing, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't stream and couldn't watch anything. And I didn't really, I was going to go out. I was hoping the power would come on. So I get that book, and I'm sitting in our kitchen. And we have a little island, and there's little stools where you can sit on the island. And I opened it up, and I started reading this book. And 2 hours later, Elizabeth comes and finds me. I haven't moved, and I'm 200 pages into this book. And she's like, man, you must really like that book. I go, this book, I mean, I was grinning the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was, you were right, man. It was so much fun to read that book because the premise was great. You know, I love great first person narrators. The characters, I just loved everything about this book. It was wildly entertaining.
Yeah. And he's so optimistic and enthusiastic through the whole thing. Because you could easily take it to a negative, pessimistic kind of thing, but he just loves the discovery of things.
Yeah, yes, and the same way that The Martian was optimistic.
Yeah,
both the book and the movie. I mean, the book was a little less so, but I still love the book. But I love the extended version of The Martian. But it really is. I mean, I think we need more of that. Because science fiction, I mean, as a kid, I grew up with dystopian sci-fi, all the movies that were made before. There was a period of time from the late 60s till when Star Wars came out, where everything was dystopian. You know, A Boy and His Dog, No Blade of Grass, The Ultimate Warrior, Soylent Green, Silent Running, The Omega Man, Colossus, The Forbidden Project, the Planet of the Apes movies, and I watched them all, and I loved them all. But I mean, my God, they were so downbeat and so like the world's coming to an end. Humanity sucks.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you want to not. And as a big Star Trek fan, I'm like, well, I'm sure the world's going to get better.
Yeah. And the engineer I love the engineer without spoiling anything.
Yeah. How great.
Yeah.
The whole thing was great. And I got to tell you, the ending did put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever would do this, but I'd love for him to write a sequel. I don't know what it would be, but just because I love the character. I loved all the characters.
Yeah. But I won't have time to go through the things I wanted. But another thing, during Midnight Musings, I sent in a tip about Fast and Furious.
Yes.
And boobs.
Yes, we read that, but it came through as, I think, anonymous. You said it was no,
I don't remember. Anyway, but I think in metaphors a lot of the time. So I think that comic book movies are like pizza. Yeah. They're like, they're not fine dining, but they're usually pretty good. And
yeah,
but if you get too much, you get tired of it as anything. So it's like pizza.
Yes.
But Fast and Furious have become fake boobs.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that, and I love, like, I think so. For those of you who don't know, Stubble said this. He said, some words of wisdom here from Stubble concerning the Fast and Furious movies. Car chases are like boobs. When they are obviously fake, it's a turnoff. For me, I prefer the real thing. I guess it's a question about authenticity in both cases. And that sent us off, by the way, on a jag. We talked about boobs for a while last night. And I think it's really interesting because, I understand that people want to look a certain way and augment, but from a perspective, when you get to interact with
if they don't follow the laws of gravity, there's something wrong.
Yes. I mean, and it's to me, it's like a bad matte painting in a movie. The paint, it might be a good painting, but if it's not composited right, and you're like, oh, that's a special effect. You don't want to see it. And I feel that way. I think you're right. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody who decides to have breast augmentation, but for me, it's not real. It's not real. And that to me is I can't. It would be like okay, you're with somebody who's only half real, or it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, I've never said no, but yeah, but I think you're right.
Stubble, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I think Stubble's secretly the Irene Jobson of Sweden.
Now there's a podcast. Irene and Stubble.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Unleashed.
God.
Put them together.
What would we call it? Swiss cheese or something like that? I don't know. The Swiss and the Miss. Anyway, we've got a super chat from Science Fan for £10. Thank you so much. On my podcast, I would like to do a documentary about how sci-fi movies and TV influence people to study science like myself. Do you think radio type documentaries can be interesting? I'm not a video person.
Oh, 100%. I mean, look at the popularity of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
They've exploded. And I think, a lot of people are uncomfortable on camera. And I think that, the thing that you need is, if you're making a audio only podcast, if people are not the greatest speakers in the world, and they say a lot of or that, cut all that out, and you can make people sound, cut all that, and you can cut all that stuff out. I mean, we do it all the time when we're making interviews for like home video and stuff. You cut out the ums and the ohs and because a lot of people just aren't good at speaking extemporaneously on camera. So I think that would be one. I think that's a great subject, because one, it shows how, as a genre, science fiction can be important. I mean, it's a cliche now, but a lot of scientists got their start because they were Star Trek fans. A lot of people got into engineering because of Star Trek. I mean, you had a main character like Scotty, who was an inspiration to a lot of people, and I think rightfully so.
Yeah. So
I think it's a great idea for an audio podcast, and I think you should absolutely do it. And don't wait. Do your first interview now, and put it out. Get it out there.
And making a audio podcast professional is a lot easier than making a video podcast professional. You can focus on the audio pieces, specifically, and not have to worry about, do I have the right camera, the video quality, and all of that stuff. And I would say to Science Fan, if you haven't ever listened to a show called Radio Lab, it's kind of a science focused podcast. To me, that's kind of because one of the nice things that they do is, with very interesting editing, with very interesting, choices of selections of music and interludes and that kind of stuff, they create a very compelling experience. And it is mostly science-based. So that would give you maybe an example of something to kind of aim for with your own show. Do it.
Yeah,
definitely do it.
Yeah, and I can't stress that enough. And by the way, you're bang on about Radio-Lab. Bang on.
It's been around for a while, but it's been one of those that really kind of resonated with me to the extent that when I started doing my own podcasting and stuff, it was like, wow, that's like the gold standard of what I want a podcast to sound like, right? So
100%.
Anthony Plowden is coming up next. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks
for joining us today. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you, dude. What's happening?
Hey, good to see you too, Rob. I want to talk about The Flash, but last night I lived every Friday night for Midnight Musings. I mean, the conversation I sent in the super chat about just one of the guys and seeing Joyce Heiser for the first time. Like, that movie changed my life forever. Trust me.
That's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, love it. Okay, The Flash. I'm looking forward to seeing it this upcoming week. I think my first point I wanted to make was, I'm really hoping that Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, they have at least one scene together. If not, I think that's such a disservice if they don't. I don't want any spoilers. I know you're not going to say anything, but I'm praying and hoping. I think that if they don't, that'll be a disservice, though. But hopefully they will. But I really wanted to talk to you about these numbers. Why in the world do you think are they projecting this $70 million figure? I was expecting the best for this film. I know the way you want to, depending on the way you want to interpret it, the film is kind of like a dead end street as far as like not continuing with different storylines and things of that nature, even maybe Ezra. But why do you think the film is only going to be projected at 70? Because I had hopes of maybe seeing spinoffs with Michael Keaton and the young lady who's playing Supergirl.
Oh, and by the way, she's a fucking star.
Yeah, yeah. But I pay attention to the numbers. So I'm just worried about the whole situation pretty much. Can you ease my worries at all?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be too worried about it because I think word of mouth is going to be great, and I think they've been certainly promoting the hell out of the movie. The movie delivers. The movie is so entertaining, especially the first hour of it just kills too. It's really, really, really entertaining. And I think it's going to do really well. I think people are really going to like the movie a lot. And I think it's going to open much bigger than they're projecting. And I think they're going to see that. Because when it opens Friday, right?
Friday, yeah, this upcoming Friday.
Upcoming Friday. So I think that they're going to see people. I think are really gonna dig it. But then again, things are wacky now. There's a lot of just strange stuff happening all around. When but I predict that I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to do well. I really do.
And as far as switching gears a little bit to Indiana Jones, I can't remember the podcast that you were on, the YouTube podcast 2 weeks ago, but I was watching one of his videos the other day, and he was talking about the Indiana Jones projections.
60 million? It's being projected.
Yeah. Do you think that it's the ageism, the age thing, the age gap thing, the fact that it's going to be so hard to reel in the younger 20-year-old, possibly 30-year-old audience? Why do you feel that that's even projecting super low? Because I thought that would be at least at 90 million, at least at 90, somewhere between 90 and 100 this first week.
I would have too, but again, I think that a $60 million, I think there's a couple things. I think that they were really surprised at the reaction that the movie got from Cannes was as bad as it was, because let's face it, that reaction was not good. Yeah. And I think that was really, that took them aback. But and that was, I feel bad for them in that case, because I think that James Mangold is a great filmmaker. Yeah. So I think that's part of it, and there is the, let's face it, the unrelenting hatred online for Lucasfilm. I think that's definitely a factor. I used to think that kind of stuff doesn't matter, but it does matter now. And I think that that is definitely a factor that's affecting this box office, rightly or wrongly. And also the fact that the Indiana Jones franchise is 42 years old now. Raiders came out in 1981. And I think it's also what I'm always surprised that there's so many people that haven't seen the Indiana Jones movies, because first of all, they're a franchise. It's not like Star Wars is timeless. If you started watching Star Wars 45 years ago, or you started watching it today, it still works. But because Indiana Jones is about the past, right? I mean, Temple of Doom is set in 1935. Raiders is 36. Last Crusade's a little later, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was in the 50s, and now this movie's in 1969. I think for younger audiences especially, they just don't care. And it's not, I think younger audiences now, I think people really have to take into consideration, especially I think we're finding out that IPs, you can't just make any IP and expect people to go. You have to be really careful, and the filmmakers have to have a really big understanding of what it is they're making. And the studios are like, we're going to take this IP, or now they're starting to do analytics. And I was talking to a producer yesterday, and they're starting to do analytics, a lot of analytical analysis of whether an IP is actually viable in the marketplace. And I think with Indiana Jones, I mean, and again, you have a character. I mean, canonically, he's supposed to be 70 in this movie, but Harrison Ford's 80 years old, and I know he's still Harrison Ford, but still. Although, look, I think the movie's better than the reviews that it got coming out of Cannes. And I think especially with these IP, I mean, obviously the proof's in the pudding. We'll know as soon as we see the movie. But I'm willing to bet that Indiana Jones is better than what we think it's going to be. And I could be wrong, but I think it's probably going to be better. And I think it might, and if it is better, it's going to, people are going to go, oh, that was good. I liked it. You know, because ultimately now people still are going to the movies. And our little echo chamber here on YouTube and all of us in the movie pundit space is a very small space. So I hope it's good. I want it to be good.
Same here. Same here. Thanks, Rob.
And I haven't got Psycho Cop 2.
I'm hoping that it at least comes by the end of the summer so you can watch it, because I'm telling you right now, there's plenty of boobs in that film, and I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. Thoroughly.
I just like the fact that you like just one of the guys, because that's actually a legitimate, you know, you always hear about the top tier. Like my favorite teen film of the 80s is Risky Business. To me, that's top tier. And then there's, you know, the John Hughes movies, but there's a lot of movies that don't get talked about. Like I consider Valley Girl a teen film. I consider James Foley's Reckless with Aidan Quinn and Daryl Hannah a teen film. Just One of the Guys is actually a legitimately good movie. Secret Admirer is another great teen film. But Just One of the Guys is great. I saw that in a theater. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Sherilyn Fenn's in it.
Yep, that was a good one. By the way, was it Andrew, right? Who was just Anthony? Anthony, thanks for sharing. And Anthony, the way that your shot was framed, the light behind you made it look like you had a halo. So it was a very angelic image of Anthony. So we've got Matt from the End Podcast joining us, I believe, also from the UK. I'm not sure, but Matt, you should be able to unmute and join us now. Welcome.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
How's it going?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Robert. How are you, friend?
I'm doing well. Doing well, you know, just trying to gin up more interest in the channel, and making it. I got to get 100,000. I need one of those YouTube plaques that you get for 100,000 subscribers.
Hey, don't we all, mate? Don't we all?
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, I just want to get one thing off my chest, off the top. I don't know if you remember when we spoke 2 weeks ago. I did quite a glowing appraisal of how much your YouTube channel helped me when I was feeling not quite myself. And I said to you that it was one of the only times where I was able to get to sleep listening to your soothing and soporific tones. However, 2 weeks ago, I was that excited about speaking to you, I couldn't get to sleep. So if that ain't the definition of irony, I don't know what is.
Well, that's funny to hear. Soporific. I like that. That's such a great word.
I mean, it's all right. I've got a lot of them as a pointless Englishman, as I pointed out to you last week. But you know, I mean, what's going on in your world since we last spoke?
Well, you know, there's some. I'm working on a new unscripted video interview series that we'll talk about. I'll talk about, which is really, it's going to be a lot of fun. And
oh shit! Wait! I'm sorry, the Champions League finals on at the same time. Man City have just scored. Let's fucking go!
Yeah.
By the way, apologies to the Man U fan that I was speaking to in the chat earlier, but I had in the back of my mind, I was thinking, like, what if this is like 0-0 and I get to speak to the legendary Robert Meyer Burnett, and then all of a sudden a goal happens, and all my thinking did not allow me to sort of fully equate my reaction while you were in the middle of a sentence. So at this point, I'd like to apologize to you.
Not at all. I not at all. I love the enthusiasm. It's that's fantastic. But no, so no, that's what we're doing. And you know, I have a screenplay that I wrote that I'm definitely interested in directing, and I've been refining that a little bit, and just doing the channel. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Putting people together, seeing stuff that's going on. Yeah. So.
Because that's something that's interested me since you've done this on your sort of I mean, on your own and on your own terms since the whole John Campea sort of, I won't call it a debacle, but like from the viewing public, it kind of seemed like it happened all of a sudden. And it went, let's just say it went managed well. But in the back of my mind, like, I don't think people quite realise like how, in the way that, and I think this is one thing that was always said right on the John Campea show, that $1 billion is like a heck of a fucking lot of money, and that don't make success. And it's kind of like, if people kind of looked at what you'd have achieved in your sort of career prior to that and during that, like it's quite like a really big roll call, if you know what I mean. Like you're kind of, I wouldn't say like, I wouldn't put it on you for you to say like you're kind of a big deal, but you are actually quite kind of a big deal, so at least for people like me, like I said, like a pointless Englishman to be able to speak to on a Saturday night.
Well, it's funny because, you know, when you, like I was I've done a lot of stuff, but what's really interesting is because I've done a lot of stuff, but collectively I didn't make anything that made $1 billion, but I've done a lot of things. Like
exactly.
I produced movies, and I think that's how sort of that differentiates me, at least in the YouTube space, in that
100%.
And that I've done all this stuff. You know, it was really funny. Like, I don't know why, but so I worked for 3 years for CBS and Paramount making documentaries for the Next Generation and the Enterprise Blu-rays. And one of the things that we did was I sort of recycled an idea. We did these in conversation pieces, and we got the whole cast of the various with Enterprise and TNG, but we did an in conversation piece with the whole cast of Enterprise. And for some reason, that's on YouTube. It's over an hour long, and it's the whole cast, and it's moderated by Brandon Braga. And people have been seeing that, and like Mikey Lito and a bunch of other people that aren't PGS members, but I'm getting contacted like, I had no idea you produced this stuff. And it's very funny because me, I spent 3 years of my life doing nothing but making Star Trek documentaries. And that was the second time in my life I was making Star Trek documentaries, because I worked on the Star Trek Experience in the 90s. And it's very funny to me that, because you don't give people your CV. So when I'm doing this stuff, and then when people find out, and they're always like, when did you do this? Because now all anybody thinks I do is talk on YouTube. But it's like, yeah, and it's like during the pandemic, you know, we did 3 seasons of a Netflix animated series, you know, Dota Dragon's Blood, and I, you know, I would do YouTube shows, and then Ashley Miller would log on, and his director would log on, and I would edit. I was editing this Netflix show, and then we would send it off to Korea, and 6 months later we'd get the finished animation back, and then I was working with the composer and consulting on the sound mix of the show and doing notes, and like all the way up to when the climax, the final episode, the climactic episode was done. I went back and forth with Ashley, the showrunner and creator, for a long time, getting the music cues just right. And it's funny because I don't talk about that stuff. I mean, I tell people I did it. And then there's, of course, Tango Shalom. You know, Tango Shalom is people like, oh, aren't you done with that? And it's like, well, nope, it's opening in Germany in October. So I'm now talking about doing a physical release in Germany, a physical media release, maybe in 4K. And you just keep doing all this stuff. But for me, if I didn't do all this stuff, I couldn't be a movie pundit. Like, for me personally, this is not a criticism of anybody else, but if I didn't have a career, I wouldn't feel that I could speak the way I speak about the motion picture business.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the way that Chris Struckman has taken his YouTube audience and really motivated that to the fullest extent that you could probably. It's almost like someone that does like football commentary that ends up becoming a professional footballer, at least like in the sort of like English league, and it's mad. Like he's not in the same way that you are, that you're probably far too modest for what you've achieved prior to YouTube, but he doesn't have any qualms. I remember, I think I was going to a site visit yesterday, and he said, look, to make this film perfect, we need some more money to finalize the visual effects. And I kind of feel like while that's kind of like a very public way, because his project is very much a part of his YouTube channel, that I don't think people kind of realize like how much you have behind you. Like my cousin's kind of into films, and I say that when I tell him about not being in the queue for this one, I'm on the phone, I've got to go because I'm just about to be on or whatever. And I said, and he's like, who is he? I went, well, he kind of YouTuber, rah, rah, rah. I went, right, but he did like the behind the scenes stuff for like the Lord of the Rings. And he was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, yeah. Yeah. And I think what Chris Stuckman has done is really, really great. Because if you think about like all the great French filmmakers like Godard and Francois Truffaut, they got their start as critics writing for Cahiers du Cinema, you know, and they, as critics, then they transitioned over and became filmmakers. And I think it was a different, honestly, I don't understand why that we don't see a lot more of that now. Why aren't we seeing a lot more people? We have more technology than we've ever had. It's easier to make a film than ever. And I think Chris Stuckman first of all, I think Chris is a great film reviewer. I've always loved, he's been doing it for a long time, and he really knows cinema. And I think it's great to see him cross over and make a film. And I wondered, because even though he raised a lot of money, I was waiting. I'm like, he'll find out, you know, and the fact that he's going back and asking for more cash. Like the thing that because you always need this new video show. I now find myself in a position where I very quickly have to raise not a lot of capital, but enough capital. It's otherwise I would pay for it out of my pocket. I can't, you know, I need to come up with about 30 grand to do this thing. And I don't know where it's going to come from. You know, I've been looking for that, and it'll be, I'll be able to return it very quickly, because what we're going to do is we're going to produce 10 episodes of the show, and it looks like it's going to even be sponsored. And the sponsorship would pay people right back, but you just never know. And when you're making a movie, Stuckman realized, okay, visual effects cost money, and it's human labor is involved. There's no way around it. You can't get great visual effects. And there's always somebody that says, oh, I can do them for you. I'm like, look, it's one thing to do visual effects on the internet, but when you're trying to incorporate them with live action footage, it's hard. It's really hard. And a friend of mine, a professional VFX artist, did, believe it or not, about 50 shots for me that are in Tango Shalom. A lot of them were wire removal shots of the dancing balloon at the end of the movie, because you could see the fishing line. It had to get removed, and it had to get removed in 4K. And that was rotoscoping, and it was, it was hard. And yeah, it's tough. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, so many people, when you're trying to make movies, a lot of your life you just sit around and do nothing. And I would say that YouTube has kept me, like, I'm not depressed, a depressed person. There's too much I'm interested in. So I'm like, well, if this isn't working, I'll go do this. There's a million things I'm interested in the world. And if one thing doesn't work out, you jump to the next thing, and then you come back to the other thing. And it was very funny, because this producer that I had lunch with, I said to him, I go, he's unbelievably successful. And I said, your projects, a lot of these things that you've sent me, they're all good. And his advice, and he said this before, he's not precious about any of his projects. He just keeps working, and it's a numbers game. You just do as much as you can. You get that stuff out there. You hustle, you find things, but you can't become a crusader. You have to keep it going. It's up to you to keep the balls in the air, no matter what, and don't get precious about them. And I tend to get, that's my big thing in my career, is I'm too precious about everything. It's like, I don't know, it doesn't matter if I'm not getting paid to do this. I have to make it great. So.
Well, thank you so much to Matt. And we've got Justin Toner coming up. Probably
what's up, dude?
With some new physical media offerings to show us today.
Now, did you take a trip? You took a trip, right? Or are you going to take a trip? Yeah.
No, not yet. Hopefully sometime. Hopefully I'll be able to get somewhere soon, but not sadly not in the immediate future.
All right.
Sadly, no, nothing new yet. I'm still waiting for Vinegar Syndrome to ship the stuff I bought for their halfway to Black Friday sale. I mean, it's like, you're in the same boat. It's like I got a bunch of different stuff than you did. It's like you got Showgirls and all that.
Yeah, but I don't think is Showgirls supposed to ship now?
Yeah, because it was they put it up ahead of the halfway to Black Friday sale,
Right.
so it's part of this. It was part of that whole sale deal. So it's probably going to see that probably in the next couple weeks. They'll probably it should ship. Usually it takes like about 3 or 4 weeks for when they do the big sales for the stuff to ship. So
right.
So nothing
Okay.
new yet. I'm definitely can't wait to get my hands on like Pedro was talking about the Star Trek 4Ks. I need to get the next gen ones. I need to get box set, and I'll have all the important Trek movies I need in 4K.
Oh yeah. No.
Gotta have it.
And they're great.
So
I mean,
you,
they
you
really
saw,
are good.
Yeah. You saw the about the wildfires from Quebec. And
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So it's like I was right in the middle of that this week. Not as orangey hazy Blade Runner 2049 looking as New York City was, but we had the haze here in Rochester, and the air quality was not good. I didn't step outside my house for like 2 days. Thankfully, I work from home, so it's like it made it easier to not leave the house because the air quality was. Even when I did step outside, just when it was starting to like the air quality starting to improve a little bit, it's still like you could just smell in the air and taste it. It was like that you just tasted the burntness in the air. It was not good. So thankfully it rained here and the air quality is back to normal. So that was really freaky though. Never seen anything like that.
Wow. Yeah, it looks insane.
Yeah. I've seen those pictures. Some people were like, "It looks like Las Vegas in Blade Runner 2049." With that,
it's exactly Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It was freaky. It was very freaky. But so thankfully that's over. I went to see. I haven't seen Spider-Verse yet. Probably will eventually. But I went. A friend of mine wanted to go see Transformers instead because we're both big Transformers.
What'd you think? I haven't seen it.
I liked it. I thought it was really good. It's definitely as good as Bumblebee. I don't know if I think I might like Bumblebee still a little bit more, but this was also quite good. We wouldn't call it like great, like stupendous, but it was good. It was fun. They're continuing to step in the right direction after it's like all the problems people had with the Bay versions. They're definitely rebooting the whole thing because I won't spoil, but something happens at the end of the film where something is revealed, and it's like, what? I was literally, my friend and I couldn't believe it. We're like, wait, what? They're doing that? Oh, well, okay. It's quite a surprise. Like, I can't give it away. It's like people know what I talk about when they see it. It's right at the end of the movie. But it was fun. The voice acting was great. Was great with the Transformers. The action was good. Human characters are pretty decent this time. It's like could have used some more character development. Some of the humor didn't work. There was some jokes that landed, and the others were kind of like, I was like, it's like so. But overall, we had a really good time. It was fun. So.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, I look, I like giant robot movies. and I do think that the Transformers, like I really like the first Transformers movie, although the battle at the end becomes a little incoherent. And I did like Dark of the Moon a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them, there's something about those movies are very crass. The human characters seem, but Bumblebee I loved, and this looks more along the lines of that. Yeah. So I think I'll really enjoy it.
The action is much easier to follow, especially the climax. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's like you can follow it. It's not like shaky cam, kind of like, well, what the F is going on, kind of thing. It was much better, and some really cool stuff. So I was really happy as a fan of the Transformers. So Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. I want to see it. I mean, I thought it looked good.
Yeah. The
So-
one other thing I wanted to talk about before I'm done is we brought up the this whole thing about censoring movies, when the whole thing about how French Connection was edited, and
A
now I
film, by the
get
way,
that-
that got an Academy Award for editing
yeah,
has now a
I
terrible
get-
edit in it.
I get the response that Crichton Channel's like this is the copy that Disney gave us. Okay, I get that, but you should at least make people, like you said, I saw your Facebook post. You should at least make people aware that the film has been edited. You know, it's like, instead, you know, it's like, you know, if the cut has been changed, you know, like, you know, if like a new, like even if the director himself went back and recut the film, you should have it like let people know this is a new cut of the film approved by the director or whatever. You know, like. And,
Well, I mean, for me, I look at something like that and I'm like, first of all, who made that? That edit is terrible. And you can see that, and it's not just a line, it's an exchange between those two characters, between Roy Scheider and Gene Hackman. It was the Best Picture Award winner of 1971, won Best Director, it had Best Editor. And the thing that and why people are like, well, Rob, why are you making such a big deal about it? Well, because we now live in a time where the progressive far left, I used to think I was a classical liberal with
they're
left.
going back and re-editing Roald Dahl and James Bond books.
This is the
questionable content, and now they're doing it with the movies.
It's authoritarian fascism, and
if people have a problem with the N word, it's like I saw a great example. Like, all right,
you froze.
Well, Brooks, that you know that one of the funniest scenes of the film involved. You know, it's like
you mean in Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, where you're like the old lady uses the N word on Cleavon Little. It's like, you know, it's like it's the N word, but it's one of the funniest scenes of the movie because you don't expect a nice sweet old lady to use such a derogatory racist term on Cleavon Little, which is part of the impact. And it's like, well, so if you want to do that to French Connection, are you going to do that to Blazing Saddles? You know, it's like
you'll do it to
I think Mel Brooks would have something to say about that.
Absolutely. Well, and I made the point on Twitter. I said, what are you going to do? You're going to take out that famous scene and do the right thing when Mookie is talking to John Turturro, you know, and then you have those zoom ins of all the different races of people giving every racial epithet they can think about. I mean, what I don't like about ultimately what it's doing to us is it's infantilizing us as adults. And I don't understand this idea that everybody is supposed to feel comfortable with the world around them. Like this idea of I need a safe space in college because I feel triggered. I mean, human life is traumatic. Life is a horrible struggle of survival. And it's such a bizarre idea that everybody wants to feel comfortable all the time and not feel offended. I don't even understand where that comes from. How do you exist? We're suffering from entropy every single day. Our lives, we're on a ticking clock. We are our bodies from the time that we're born, we're going to die. And we're going to suffer all the indignities of life in between then and now. And I just don't understand why everybody wants to live their lives where they're in complete comfort all the time, where don't say anything that's going to offend me. Words are violence. I'm like, no, I want to go punch you in the face when I hear that, because violence is violence. If we're having a conversation and you can't handle a word because, you're so triggered. First of all, why do your feelings? It's so bizarre that everybody's part of the whole idea of what's going on with the progressive left is that everybody wants to feel good about everything all the time. And I'm like, I don't understand where that mindset came from. Certainly the 10,000 years of human history or whatever wouldn't, I mean, if you look back into mankind's history, all of it's triggering. You know, we won't even be able to talk about history because, I'm sorry, Professor, I can't listen to this story about what happened in the concentration camps, or I can't, I'm too sensitive. It's like, we can't even talk about what really happened in life, in history. Nobody wants to hear it. And it's bizarre to me. I don't get it. and I think it should be fought tooth and nail wherever it comes from. And it's bizarre. And the weird activism that's risen up, all this virtue signaling, performative, progressive protests or whatever. I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand. Like, why does everybody, and why do people think that they're entitled to impose their own identity issues on the rest of us? I don't get it. I'm all for freedom of expression, or be whoever you want to be. You know, whatever your sexuality is, great. Whatever your religious preferences are, great. Pursue them. Don't force them on me, though. You know? But it's bizarre. And then when you see something like The French Connection edited, the edit was dumb. I understand why it was done, but why in such a clumsy manner? You didn't clear that. And maybe it was done for, somebody said maybe it was done for an airplane, or maybe it was done for a showing somewhere, and they just, but that's what happens. These edited versions escape into the wild and they propagate. They wind up on iTunes. They wind up on the Criterion channel. And there's no due diligence happening here. And that's the scary part. It doesn't matter if I mean, look, they used to try, and there was a guy editing Shakespeare in the 1800s, you know, making it more palatable, changing the endings of these stories and making it more palatable for audiences. This has gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's bizarre. Anyway, I don't like it.
Well, thank you, Justin.
And look who it is.
Look who it is. I'm gonna have to let you introduce him.
Fernando Borrero. Looking pretty chipper. You're in a chair. You're out of bed. You're back in the command post where we're used to seeing you.
Yes, I'm back at my place now. As grateful as I am to my mother and my sister for their support, I'm glad to be back at my place. You know,
well, you sound good. Things are getting better.
They're getting better. Yes. And as I was telling the people on the chat, it feels good to be on the chat. It does, and I know it sounds corny, but when I get on the chat with the community and speaking to you, it lifts my spirits. It does wonders for my spirits. So for that alone, I thank you.
Oh, well, I mean, I thank you for saying, I mean, these
Sure.
chats are fun.
They are. I love the community, very supportive, but I don't need to tell you that, you know that already. And so, you know, thank you to everybody and everybody's well wishes. I want to thank everybody and thank you for your continued support, Rob.
Well, it's been heartening to see you getting better.
Yes, thank you.
So it's good. It's good to see that, because we're stronger, as Kirk said to Matt Decker, we're stronger with you than without you. Of course, it didn't work. It didn't work in that instance. It ended badly.
Understood the message. Thank you very much. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I just want to jump on what you just finished talking about. If I'm somebody who's growing up during this era with all this editing, how can I talk about history if all around me there are all these edits? I'm not going to know what happened. How can I intelligently talk about history then if I'm being safeguarded against all this? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really don't know.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's interesting to me, like when I was growing up and I had to go to Sunday school, and, you know, every year, being raised Jewish and going to Sunday school, you had people, Holocaust survivors, coming in and speaking. And we were, you know, started out in elementary school and junior high. It wasn't exactly the most pleasant of subjects, but it was talked about in a very respectful, matter-of-fact manner. And, you know, and this is the 70s and the early 80s. And it was horrifying to hear these stories, but they happened. And these were people that lived through it.
Right.
And a lot of them had their families destroyed. And nobody, there was never any cause or call to not, like, oh, you can't expose kids to this kind of material. Now, on the other hand, you know, talking about, like, in the same time, no one was talking about sexuality or gender identity or sex issues in elementary school. We learned about the birds and the bees, like we had 2 years in 5th and 6th grade where we had sex education, but it was more from a mechanical standpoint,
Right.
as opposed to understanding your own sexuality, because no one paid much when you were a kid. No one paid much attention to that. I think you have to, there's certain subject matters that there's an appropriate time to deal with them. But nowadays, everybody wants to take all that. You have to have mental development. You have to allow for that to happen. And then when it does happen, you should expect people to be mature enough to make their own intellectual inquiries into life. And there's this weird idea that, oh, no. On one hand, we want to protect the children, but on the other hand, let's expose them to all of this other stuff. And it's weird. I think there's this bizarre double standard happening in our society that is, quite frankly, dangerous. And it's leading us down a wrong path. And I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. How's it going with the puppies, by the way?
The last one leaves tomorrow.
No kidding.
Yeah, I have to say, it has been, I mean, it would have been easier for us if we had all the puppies, like if we had pre-gamed it and like promoted these puppies before they were born. We didn't do enough, because now they're 14 weeks. The last puppy that we have is all 14 weeks old. We should have been able to get rid of them at 8 weeks, but we didn't do what we should have done. However, that said, all the people that have got the puppies have had our families, the people with kids and stuff. And it's been incredibly gratifying to see them, because they've come to the house and you let the puppies pick them.
Right.
And because these puppies were socialized around 3 big dogs and around us, so they're not timid, and they really had a wonderful time. And these dogs you can do tests, like if you hold dogs up and if you flip them over and rub their tummies, or if you drop something and that makes a clattering noise.
Yes.
And if the puppies, if they go after it to investigate what that is, as opposed to going away, cowering away, our puppies passed all those with flying colors. And and I think because we literally, as opposed to dog breeders, which we are not, we literally raised these puppies in our bedroom. They slept and they had the best time running around, and we really took care of them. So the people that got the puppies have reported back like these are the best puppies ever.
Very nice.
And it's been great. It's been great seeing. There's nothing more gratifying than seeing a little kid interact with a puppy for the first time and picking that puppy and taking it home. And for me, and I had never had that experience before.
Right.
I mean, what does suck is you develop a bond with these puppies, and the one left is a great puppy. It's funny because I would have thought it was the females that were chosen. We had 5 females and 3 males, and nobody wanted the males at first.
Really?
And which was, I thought, odd, but Green, they're named by the collar that we put on them.
Okay.
Green is the last one left, and Green, if I could keep this dog, I would keep it, because Green is smart and loving and funny and kind of a goofball. He's a great dog. And but then we'd have 4 big dogs.
Yeah.
And I'd go crazy.
But I think you did, but it sounded like you did well with them. And you made 8 families very happy. So you've got to give yourself a pat on the back for that.
Well, what's really interesting is the last Green is going to a family that has a child that is subject to seizures.
Right.
And these dogs they can be service dogs.
Oh, wow.
And so this family's going to train Green to be a service dog for their son. And the son really loves puppies, dogs. So it'll be a match made in heaven. And we've asked people to send us pictures. So people have continued to send us photos of the puppies as they've gotten older. And that's been really gratifying to see.
Fernando, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Good to see you, Fernando. It's especially good to see you chipper and back in your own place.
Yes.
And say hi to your mom for me.
Some good energy we were getting from Fernando there. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Bob Littlepage is up next, and he will be our last call on YouTube. So we'll continue the chat, but this will be our final YouTube chat here.
Do we get all the super chats or anything?
We haven't gotten any other super chats, but people are more than welcome to share them since the last one that we got from Science Fan. So if you do have a super chat and you want to share it with us here, and I don't know if you can check the tips, Rob. I can't check.
Yeah,
tips,
we never say that with these, so it's fine.
Yeah. So,
no,
but if there's
good.
any super chats that people want to drop, I did have a question from Glenn Mark. Regarding a super chat that he had submitted last night, that he says it looks like you forgot to, you didn't catch it. He wanted you to know that he wouldn't mind a reanimated Star Trek the Animated Series, that you had talked a little bit about it in Observation 861.
Yeah, you know, I it's funny because I read that and I forgot. That's my bad. I'm sorry that I did that. There is talk of that. There is talk about now with the technology that exists, places like Otoy, and there was talk about this when we were doing the Star Trek Blu-rays, because they had done, you know, the animated series. There was talk. CBS even did a test, CBS Digital, about taking the original audio because it's the original cast. I mean, I think that they should go take the original voice audio, just because it's the original cast record, and a lot of those actors, very few are still left, but use that original voice audio, and you could redo the animation, and you could make those 22 episodes really sing, and turn them into something that is spectacular. If you wanted to do that, if they felt that they could spend the money, because you could even make them in a way they wouldn't feel like they were made. The problem with the Star Trek animated series from the 70s, from 73 and 74, is that the animation is so limited. It was done in a very limited way. And if they were to expand and make that animation great, you could say that was seasons, that was the years 3 and 4 of the, or pardon me, of 4 and 5 of the original 5-year mission that we never saw.
Right.
And, you know, because I mean, I would love to see some of those episodes like Beyond the Furthest Star, or Yesteryear, or a Slaver Weapon. I mean, Larry Niven wrote Slaver Weapon. It'd be great to have those done up, or Time Trap would be so cool to see, with brand new animation looking really slick. Because honestly, and like Paramount made the original series available with the new visual effects, but you also had you could choose which one you wanted to see. They had both on there. I mean, right now they could do so many cool things with the animated series, that animated show, and I'd love to see it done that way. You know?
And now, would you want it to be done in a 2D style, even though a better animated 2D style, or would you go the 3D route?
I would. I don't know. You know, I like the way they're doing Prodigy.
Yeah,
but I think that it would be, look, for me, it's like Japanese animation. There's a combination of it, like the Space Battleship Yamato remake is real, or Legends of the Galactic Heroes it's really well done. Like the space stuff is all 3D.
Right.
I think where you could use less, you could do more 2D animation with all the character stuff. But either way, I mean, it would be great. I'd love to see that done.
Right.
And then you wouldn't use the original library music. You know, you go in and recompose.
Right, because a lot of the music was kind of the Filmation catalog. You would see it pop up in the Tarzan cartoon and in the
yes
Batman and Robin that Filmation did. You would hear all of those same songs.
All the same songs, and get rid of all that, and get Stephen Barton, who did and Freddie Reedman, who did Picard season 3,
right,
and have them rescore the entire thing. As a matter of fact, I mean, this is something that they should put on Paramount Plus. And this is, if I was working at Secret Hideout, I'd make it a priority, because most people haven't even seen these days haven't even seen the Star Trek animated series, and to redo it would be like getting a whole new program.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I would love to see that done, and for not a lot of money. You know, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, actually, we're at the 2-hour mark, Rob. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to say goodbye to our YouTube friends. But the chat continues for those of us who are in the Zoom chat. Rob, any special messages for the community? Anything coming up that we want to let folks know about?
No, just more of our episodes. And I want to thank everybody for being members of the channel. It's very much appreciated, and we're bringing on more people, and so using those proceeds, people are going to get paid, and we're going to do more graphic work and more edited content. Jack, as I said, the editor, and I don't know if King Tannic even knows this, but there are we're doing cut downs and to promote our shows. King Tannic, we just put up 2 Otaku Experience promos, short videos of him, and they're part of the playlist, the Otaku Experience playlist. They're now up to just promote, they're like 5-minute clips to promote the shows. And Jack did that and creates the thumbnails and edits that stuff and gives it to me. Lana Ewan and Alan, her husband, they've got I can't wait I haven't seen it yet, but they did a review of Cronenberg's The Brood, which is one of my favorite films of his. That's going to go up tonight. And then, it's taken a little while longer to launch. I'm hoping to get it up but the Imagination Connoisseur show is definitely in process, and that's going to start. And I think that's going to be, I think it's going to be great.
Cool. And I should have told you, Rob, I'm working on editing out your Lost in Translation segments from Que Pasa PGS and making those little short videos to share with the community. So
we should.
I'll be putting those up soon.
Yeah, we'll do all, because that's short content, and we gotta like the analytics. It's like make it a question or make it a declarative statement. And I haven't looked into playing YouTube analytics, but I really want to start playing YouTube analytics because we certainly have the tools. Now we've got the talent. Let's
grow the channel.
Build the channel.
Let's get that plaque in the observatory.
That's what I want, man. I need that plaque.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and say goodbye to our friends on the stream in YouTube. Like I said, the chat continues. If you are a member of as little bit as $1 a month, you'll get the link in the community tab.
And I'm also gonna start making more member-only content. As it'll start with members, and then it'll go to the wider community, but
exclusive at first for the members, that kind of
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we will see you, all of our streaming friends, next time. And those of you who are on the Zoom chat, the chat continues, and we'll take your questions in a couple of minutes here. So we'll be seeing you soon. Take care, everybody.